You may begin.
Well, I think the expression that's what I'm looking for. The expression of public opinion is pretty good because it brings to light things about society that people may not have noticed have been annoying them. Like I know Andy Rooney, who died recently, which I'm very upset about. He brought to light a bunch of things in his career that started a lot of conversation and got the ball rolling on a few things. If you can't speak up and say your opinion, then what's going to change? Or will things change?
The prompt says, does expression of your opinion foster democratic values? So I think that we should define what democratic values are.
What do we think democratic values are? Dictionary says, of relating to or favoring democracy. Democracy. Government by the people. Well, there's more, but that's good. Okay. Rule of authority, or rule of the majority, a government in which the supreme power is vested in the people and exercised by them directly or indirectly through a system of representation, usually involving periodically held free elections.
So if people don't share their opinions, like the people that share their opinions are representing everybody, and we can't have a democracy if we don't have representatives.
Because there are just too many people for everybody to be represented.
Would it really be a democratic government for the people if we didn't allow the people to voice their opinions and put out what they think?
Yeah, I know the fact that we all have freedom of speech, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we all should state our opinions. Because, I mean, do you all agree?
I think that you should have a reason for an argument. Like, you can't just go out there and say, like, you hate gay people because you just hate gay people. You have to give specific reasons why they're harmful to the community or why they're hurting everybody else that would probably enforce that. Otherwise, you're just going to look like a bad person.
Yeah, it kind of helps with, like, giving a reason behind, like, why you feel that way. And then that can help to, like, teach other people stuff to the reason, like, why you feel a certain way. Like, just for an example, this weekend I was watching TV and something about abortion came on, and I was one of those people, I was kind of on the fence, like I never really felt strongly about, pro-life or against it, because I always felt like it was a person's choice, and like different stuff always popped up in my head, what if the girl gets raped or something like that. And I actually found out statistically that 1%, less than 1% of abortions are had because the mother can't have the baby for health reasons, and then less than 1 because they financial stuff, all the different stuff that I kind of felt against the I've been on the fence about, had been kind of answered with those statistics, and I had never learned that if people didn't have the ability to voice their opinions.
So opinions help educate?
Yeah. So,
Or at least sway other people's opinions.
Yeah, make people think, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Well, another thing with that is that you can't really voice your opinion if you don't know what you're talking about. You should at least research a little bit into what you're so passionate about.
Have a little evidence when you're trying to voice your opinion.
Yeah.
I went to Secret Church this weekend, and David Blatt was talking about how he was talking about abortion and gay rights and all that too for a little bit, and he wasn't just putting his opinion out there. He was using biblical evidence to say that was wrong.
I mean, go ahead.
Oh, no, you go.
No, it's fine.
I was kind of going to change. I mean, I agree with that, but I think that the reason that opinions are so important to, especially a democratic government, is it makes people, when you hear all these different opinions, it makes you think about which one that you believe in, and it makes you challenge and keep pushing what is right and what is good for our country. And I think that sometimes, like, more traditional countries get stuck in ruts. Like, everyone believes this because they've grown up doing that, and they don't advance. And when we have so many opinions, that it really, like, challenges you to think about things, I don't know if that has anything to do with what Chad was saying, but.
Yeah, like China, they have the government that filters on all of their internet and everything, so they can't research what's going on in other countries and form their own opinions based on other people's opinions.
So like Libyans and all that with the free. I don't know. It was a bad example.
But like China doesn't really have a democracy because they're not allowed to have opinions.
Then on the bad side of opinions as well is that I feel like you have some people, like my parents would say, like Glenn Beck, who a lot of people followed blindly, and so it got to the point where somebody would state an opinion, and just because you like that person, you'd just take on their views without really learning why. So there's also the sheep side of it all. That's the bad
That's
part.
why there are like a lot of people who express their opinions, not just one person. Like if you couldn't express your opinion because you didn't have that freedom in a country, then everybody would follow one person. But like in America, expressing our opinions fosters democratic values because so many people express their opinions that you have the freedom to choose which opinion you believe.
But then at the same time, are you still forming your own opinions?
I mean, they cause you to think if you're listening to more than one opinion.
It's like you're not forced to adopt all of that single person's opinions.
Yeah, it's
Like
like
Stevenson said, there's nothing original anymore. Go with what you know.
No, I was just gonna say, like, you listen to every other person's opinion, and then you take all of that information and gather it into yourself, and take it and roll it over in your mind until you figured out what exactly it is that you think. It can be a combination of those different things, or it can be something completely different. But whether somebody else has said it or whether you came up with it yourself, it's still your opinion because it's what you believe.
That sort of relies on the belief that everybody really focuses on what they believe. I mean, I know for a while, I was that kid that whatever I heard, like I think we all go through that point where whatever you hear from the people you trust, you just take on as your own. And so it's like you hear from a bunch of kids nowadays that it's like, now they're just starting to form their own opinions about what they believe in like their church and like getting baptized or all that different stuff, and just everybody's forming their own opinions. But there's a lot of people out there who don't, who are still in that stage where they just hear and believe.
Well, that's based on a level of maturity.
And
How much of America's mature, Chad?
Exactly.
it can also have something to do with how they feel about themselves. Like I can imagine that the people who were following that man in, I think it was Waco, the one that made them drink the poison punch. I can imagine that most of them probably didn't have any opinions themselves because they didn't know how to think or they didn't know what they felt about themselves. So they were looking for a leader to make them feel better about themselves and to tell them how they can live their life and be happy and have this great afterlife. And then eventually they gets fell into the sheep scenario where they couldn't thrive or survive without this person to lead them.
And then there also comes the point where when does it become that you have too many choices? When you become overwhelmed with all the choices and it becomes.
I think it's at that point when you start to develop your own ideas. Like, I know I always listened to my parents' political views, and like you said, I took them on as my own. But then when you start hearing other people's views, several, like more than one, that's when you develop your own ideas.
That's why we have arguments. That's why we have arguments and discussions, because we try to figure out which parts of which worldviews we want to bring in to be part of our own. So this is how we develop who we are.
It's like you need other people's opinions to formulate your own opinion, so you know all sides of it.
It's just a concept of needing to be well informed before you believe what you believe.
Could emotion somehow form your opinion on some things?
Yes, very easily. Like with the whole abortion concept, it's some people believe that when the baby is conceived, it's a baby and it's a living thing, and when you abort it, that's murder. Those are the pro-life people. The pro-choice people think that a woman should have a choice, and it's all just that entire concept. It's pretty much just one big emotional roller coaster of arguments.
That was on the show too. It was kind of, it got kind of gruesome because they started talking about like during certain week stages, like I think they said about a third or fourth week, the baby could actually feel pain. So when they were actually doing the abortion, the baby could feel it, and I was like, oh, pro-life.
Yeah, it's like within the first 2 weeks, all the organs are actually developed already, and they're like the heart starts beating and all that.
Anyway, democracy.
Thank you, Rebecca.
I didn't have anything to say.
You just want to get off the topic of abortion.
Yeah. And babies.
And babies.
Sorry.
Anyway.
Okay, so back to democracy. I'm sorry, democracy is defined as the people having the choice, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I don't want to come back to the same argument, but it's still, if we can't say that it's wrong for a person to voice their opinion unless they're doing it in a wrong manner, like they don't have the correct evidence, or they're just believing something to believe in it, like the sheep mentality. But we can't tell them that they cannot voice their opinions because that's undemocratic and unconstitutional.
But don't we do that?
Yes,
Like-
we do that.
I was about to say, it's like, I mean, I've seen it in different instances before. Just like, I was, because I'm a big sports fan, and I was watching SportsCenter, and like this guy, the running back, I think from the Steelers, last year he said something like about when Osama bin Laden, not last year, sorry, when Osama bin Laden was assassinated, and he said, something about like how he didn't agree with it, and like a company came out and like totally cut off their ties with him. Like he was, they had him advertising their products and stuff, and they completely like cut ties with him just because of him stating his own opinion. And I like didn't want to buy any more of their stuff. I felt like that was completely wrong because they took away his freedom of speech just because he was, an athlete.
Well, that goes back to the argument of morality and ethics. It was ethically right for them to completely cut him off, but morally it was wrong because all he was doing was practicing his constitutional rights and voicing his opinion, and they cut him off because society wouldn't have liked it. And you also got to use your democratic rights to decide not to buy anything from that company anymore because what they did was morally wrong.
But how's that ethically right?
Because it was a society thing. Because society is going to go with the people who killed Osama bin Laden because of what happened on 9/11.
Point. That's a good point.
Thank you.
Okay, wrapping it up.